It was almost fitting that the race began with a false start warning. After all, it had taken 112 years for women to gain the right to compete in this event and another 8 to ensure that it was drug-free and legit. So what's another few seconds? When the race ended, the clock read just under 9 minutes. Even better, as with the races in the two previous tainted Olympics, no one's delicate female innards had been irreparably damaged. No one lay writhing in the infield, frothing at the mouth because of overexertion. Not a single woman who started that race, including the ones who ran a really, really fast time, was left insane or unable to bear children or otherwise physically or mentally barred from living a full and meaningful life. Today is Friday, August 15th, 2025, and on this day in 2016, 18 women from 12 nations competed at the 3,000-meter steeplechase final at the Olympics in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. In this episode, we'll learn more about the history of this unique event, see how that final race in Rio played out, and hear what bronze medalist Emma Coburn says it meant to her to be the first American woman in history to earn an Olympic medal in that event. I'm your host, Running Up That Hillary, and you are listening to Today in Running History. It is Fueled Friday, which means that today's episode is sponsored by Fuel Goods. I am super excited because the August-September runner box from Fuel Goods came yesterday, and this subscription box is what got me familiar with the company in the first place. It's awesome because every 2 months I receive a box with all sorts of running fuel and accessories and all sorts of running-related products that I otherwise may have never discovered. I won't show y'all everything from this box because that will take a long time, but I'll choose a few items that I am most excited about. So first of all, I got this peanut butter energy waffle from Honey Stinger, which I will be eating at 5 in the morning tomorrow before my long run. I also got this Fuel Goods sweat towel, which will be waiting for me in the car as soon as I finish tomorrow's long run. And then I also got this bar soap from a company called Defense, and it smells incredible. It's like eucalyptus and tea tree. It smells so good, and it will be perfect for when I get home from my run and I want to smell good enough for my husband and kids to be in the same room with me. Y'all have got to check out the Fuel Goods at the link in the episode description, especially the bi-monthly runner box. The moment you sign up, you will get $10 in fuel cash to spend at the marketplace. And then if you use my code Hillary10, you'll get $10 off your first box. Oh, and as a member, you automatically get a discount on literally everything at the Fuel Goods marketplace. So the runner box pretty much pays for itself by the time you finish your first week of training. I am putting a link in the episode description to check out the Fuel Goods, and the code for the $10 off your first box is again Hillary10. Now let's talk about the steeplechase. It's no great secret that women's running has historically lagged behind men's in terms of both opportunity and coverage. For example, the first modern Olympics was in 1896 and featured 12 track and field events for men. It took until 1928 for women to be allowed to run any distance at the Olympics. Also at those first games in 1896, an Olympic marathon was held for men. It wasn't until 1984 that women had a marathon. That's 88 years. By the turn of the 21st century, women's Olympic track and field had nearly all the same events as men, or at least some variation on them. The women's heptathlon was added in 1980, the 10,000 in 1988, the 5,000 and triple jump in 1996, and the pole vault and hammer throw in 2000. As the new millennium progressed, it seemed like women were finally getting the opportunity to compete in just as many running events as men. But one event held on to its No Girls Allowed status until 2008 when women's steeplechase finally was added as an Olympic event, 108 years after it debuted for the men. Then, at the 2008 and 2012 Olympics, the podium for the women's steeplechase was tainted by Russian athletes who were later disqualified for doping. So it was not until the third edition of the Women's Olympic steeplechase, after the Russian Athletics Federation was barred from sending athletes due to state-sponsored doping, that we finally got to see that event played out in a fair way. The origins of this event go all the way back to the 18th century. But at that point, it wasn't humans doing the running and jumping, it was horses. The first ever steeplechase happened in 1752 in County Cork, Ireland, when two men decided to race on horseback from one church to another 4.5 miles away using the steeples as landmarks, hence the name steeplechase. The sport gained traction, and by the early 19th century, athletes in the UK and Ireland had begun competing in similar cross-country races on foot. By the mid-1800s, the sport had moved to the track for both humans and horses, and artificial barriers such as timber hurdles and water jumps were added as a replacement for the types of obstacles runners and riders would encounter on a cross-country course. Beginning in 1879, the English AAA began to include a steeplechase foot race in their annual championship track meets, though at the time there was no standard race distance. When the event made its Olympic debut in 1900, there were two races, a 2,500 meter and a 4,000 meter. And in the three Olympics that followed, the steeplechase distance continued to vary before in 1920 it was finally standardized to 3,000 meters. You'll only have to watch one steeplechase event to understand that it is a tough race, hard on the joints and very injury prone. As such, it remained a niche event for much of the 20th century. It was initially dominated by athletes from Finland, where it was better known, and it became more popular in Kenya beginning in the 1960s. That country won every single men's Olympic steeplechase final between 1968 and 2016. Women began competing in the steeplechase in the late 1980s, and the event was added to the USA Track Championships in 1991, though it took until 1998 for the race itself to count as a national championship. By the turn of the 21st century, the NCAA added the 3,000-meter steeplechase as an official event, and in 2005 it was added to the World Championships. The only barrier left was the Olympics. The first time a women's 3,000-meter steeplechase was run in the Olympics was in 2008 in Beijing, with the preliminary heats happening exactly 17 years ago today. 50 women from 30 countries competed across three qualifying races, with 15 of them moving on to the final 2 days later. That race was won by Golnara Samitova-Galkina of Russia in a time of 8:58.81, the first time in history that a woman completed that event in less than 9 minutes. 4 years later, at the 2012 Olympics in London, 44 women from 26 nations lined up to compete in the second ever women's Olympic steeplechase. Like in 2008, there were 3 qualifying heats, but this time only 15 women progressed to the final. The race was won by Yulia Zaripova of Russia in 9:06.72, with Tunisia's Habibi Gharibi in second and Ethiopia's Sofia Assefa in third. The top American was Emma Coburn, who finished 8th. Then, in March of 2016, as part of the major crackdown by the IOC on the Russian Athletic Federation's state-sponsored doping, 6 Russian athletes who had competed in the 2012 Olympics were disqualified. Among those was Yulia Zaripova, who had won the gold in the women's steeplechase, so second and third were promoted to first and second, and Milka Chimos-Chewa, who had initially finished 4th, was promoted to bronze. The 2016 games happened a few months later, and we will get back to those, but I want to skip ahead to October 2016 for a second because it was at that point that 9 athletes from Russia and other former Soviet states were retroactively disqualified from the 2008 Olympics in Beijing for doping. Among those 9 was Yekaterina Volkova, who had taken the bronze medal in that year's women's steeplechase, and at that point, Tatiana Petrova was elevated from 4th to bronze. Now let's go back to Brazil that August. That year, 53 women from 32 nations competed in the preliminary heats. The 3 qualifying rounds happened on August 13th, and 18 women made it to the final 2 days later. Then on August 15th, 2016, exactly 9 years ago today, those 18 finalists began the 7.5-lap steeplechase race at the Olympic Stadium in Rio de Janeiro. The favorite was Bahrain's Ruth Jebet, who took the lead from the gun, with Hyven Jepkemoi and Beatrice Chepkoech of Kenya close behind. There was little question at any point during the race who would be the gold and silver medalists, Jebet and Jepkemoi. The real drama came on the backstretch of the bell lap in the battle for bronze. I reached out to Emma Coburn, and although her schedule didn't allow for her to join the podcast, she did take a minute to describe what those final 250 meters were like. And this is a quote from Emma. On that hot August day in Rio, my goal was just to run a race that I knew I was capable of. I didn't let the moment of the Olympics or the moment of the medal overwhelm me. For much of the race, I was in 4th place, and as I locked into 3rd place, I felt the momentum of the possibility of medaling. It pushed me to reel her in. I didn't quite manage to reel in 2nd place, though it was close. Coburn passed Chepkoech, and she never looked back, finishing less than half a second behind Jepkemoi. With that impressive kick, Emma Coburn became the first American woman to ever earn an Olympic medal in the steeplechase. Here's what she had to say about that moment. This is another quote from Emma Coburn. Earning a medal, doing a lap of honor with the American flag over my shoulders, was the best moment in my athletic career. It was a dream. In achieving that dream, Emma Coburn did her part in the ongoing fight for gender parity in sports and helped ensure that all future athletes will be free to compete in whatever event they choose. And that is all I have for y'all today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, turn on alerts, rate 5 stars, and then send this episode to your 5th cousin twice removed. Remember that today is Fueled Friday, and listeners of Today in Running History can save $10 off the first box of your Runner Box subscription from Fuel Goods by using my code Hillary10 at checkout. I will put that code along with a link to Fuel Goods in the episode description. Then join me tomorrow as we stay in the 21st century for what remains the single fastest race ever run by a human in history. I'm your host, Running Up That Hillary, and this has been Today in Running History. This is like a weird place for this to be. I'm trying for the light not to be. It wasn't until 1984 that a woman not a woman, all of the women. We all got it. All right. 108 years event for women. No, because I said women twice, dang it. And I feel like this doesn't look good. This microphone, I think if I just keep it here, it's better. This is is that too tall? Or is that, no, that's not too tall. All right, we're just gonna start with this again. So I can say sentences, and I guess that doesn't look too tall. It just looks tall from like where I'm at. Okay. Women began competing in the steeplechase in the late 1800s, because that's kind of the whole point of this entire story. Okay. Women began competing in the steeplechase in the late Dang it says 1980s, not 1890s. Dang it. All right, let's try it again. Lined up to compete in the 2nd ever women's Olympic steeplechase. Steeplechase. 4 years later, this actually does smell really good. This soap, I'm looking forward to going and bathing tomorrow. Anyways, that 9 athletes from Russia and other Soviet states, former Soviet states, where's no Soviet? This is what, 2016? Okay. The 2016 games happened a few months later. No, really, this smells so good. I need to get it off my desk because I just want to keep smelling this. The 3 qualifying rounds happened on August 13th, and 18 women made it to the final 3 days later. No, 2 days later. the whole point of why it's stay. I can't math. Oh God, that's bad. Okay.